Endgame and Infinity War put a cluster of heroes together, and with it comes great fan service and a whole lot of responsibility. While speculating for what the new team is, we have to consider that there is too many heroes, and it will most likely be a more grounded situation for upcoming Avengers films for the meanwhile due to the fallout from Endgame and the ramifications for how the characters move forward from this event and adjusting to new life with a new team perhaps. Kevin Feige even said himself, it will be a very different team than what we've seen before. That's what Endgame was all about. It will be a very different incarnation of the team with some people you've already met and some you haven't met yet. And he goes on further to say down below, well, it's what I love about the Marvel comic method of storytelling. That's not anything we invented. I love that things build up. They build to a crescendo. They all get together, they separate, they change. And now we get to do that. Not just in movies, but in these mega event series on Disney Plus. Has just invigorated all of us at Marvel Studios to keep going. And there is an article here which says even without the majority of the original team, the MCU still has plenty of superheroes to call upon when the Avengers eventually reunite. Spider-Man Far From Home heavily implied that Peter Parker was Tony Stark's heir apparent, while Thor, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, Black Panther, Ant-Man, and the Guardians of the Galaxy are well-established heroes that could easily fit into the team. And that's without mentioning Sam Wilson's Captain America, Phase 4 debutants like Shang Chi or the Eternals, and possibly even Blade, the Fantastic Four, or X-Men. So, I thought I'd mention the OG Avengers first for a second, and pay just a quick little homage and tribute to Iron Man and Widow. In other words, Tony Stark and Natasha Romanoff. Without them, the universe would be in complete disarray. Cap gave it all, especially towards the end, and they all gave it all to ensure the legacy would live on, and Cap got his happy ending. But we're still left with 3 of the originals. Fury is out there, probably doing some stuff with Sword, so he will be handling the more cosmic recruiting side, I feel. Whereas on Earth, we have Hawkeye, Thor, and Hulk remaining from the original 6. Now, I would like to say that I believe the original crew are going to be somewhat mentors in the next Avengers films. I think Mark Ruffalo even said for himself that he would enjoy if Professor Hulk was sort of like a mentor to new characters. So I feel that Thor, Hulk, Hawkeye, and even War Machine, I mean, it's easy to forget. War Machine isn't one of the OG 6, but he has been around as long as most of the other Avengers. And, he's one of the only people that flies around in a Stark tech suit, so you got to keep him around. What I would love for Avengers 5 is to open up with War Machine, Thor, Hulk, and Hawkeye on a mission, and then realizing that they actually need a little bit of backup. And then they start the idea of potentially forming a new team. And what this will do, because the roster of the Avengers is massive now, it's so big, is I think one move that Marvel could play is they could split the teams. So instead of just having just one Avengers team, you've got the Avengers team, you've got the West Coast Avengers, the Young Avengers, and possibly even the Thunderbolts. Because as of late especially, there is a lot of potential for a Thunderbolts team. A lot of potential. But if I was a betting man, I would say that the Avengers 5 team is most likely going to be War Machine, Thor, Hulk, Hawkeye, Captain Marvel, Sam, who will be taking up the mantle of Captain America, and Bucky will probably also be joining him as the Winter Soldier. Now, what I feel will happen with their TV show is it will change from Falcon and the Winter Soldier to Captain America and the White Wolf. I firmly believe that will be a natural progression for the two characters to, be comfortable with their roles, and it would be fitting for both characters in their story arcs. Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Ant-Man and the Wasp, they're a package deal. Jane Foster and Shang Chi. Now, Jane Foster is going to be returning in Thor Love and Thunder, and she will be wielding Mjolnir most likely. Now, I do want to go on record and say, I do hope this is not just because, we're getting Chris Hemsworth out the door so we can pass it on to another character. I really hope that's not the case. I really hope that with Avengers 5 or any upcoming movies, they really treat the OG heroes with some respect. And I guess part of my worry is I've seen how Lucasfilm have handled certain characters in Star Wars. And, you know, it's all subjective, right? And my subjective opinion is that they haven't done a good enough job as they could have done. Now, I know that's a completely separate entity, but the point still stands. It plays in the back of my mind that I'm worried that they might manhandle these characters, you know, bastardize them in order to ship new ones in and kick out the old ones. I really hope that's not the case. I would love to see Thor and Jane Foster kicking ass on screen together. I'd really enjoy that. I think that would make for some good visual storytelling. And as far as I know, Chris Hemsworth said he would love to stay in the role as long as Marvel would have him. And I think given the success of Thor Ragnarok, the amount of praise Chris Hemsworth has gotten as Thor, I think it would be a very, very bad decision to get rid of him, especially now that we no longer have Cap, Iron Man, or Black Widow. We have a Black Widow movie coming up, but I feel that it's sort of like the Solo movie. We've already been there, done that. It's sort of like a tribute film more than anything. When she should have had the first female Solo movie herself, if I'm being honest. Iron Man's gone, but his presence will still be there. Now, I am hoping Captain America will appear in the Falcon and Winter Soldier series. Yes, his contract with Marvel is done, but that's for the films. It doesn't take that long to film maybe a minute scene of dialogue between him, Sam, and Bucky as Old Man Cap. That would be just the best thing. It could be just one scene halfway through the season when they're really struggling, you know, to find footing. Because you got to think about it. Bucky and Steve are best friends since childhood. Falcon and Cap, you know, Falcon has pretty much worked with his hero, and he's now got the mantle of said hero. So there's going to be a lot of emotions in the mix, especially given everything that happened at the end of Endgame. Bucky had to see his best friend go back in time, and now all he's got left in this life is Sam. And, you know, they don't really get along. They have a lot of bickering, so it'd be interesting to see how their relationship develops. And if it's anything like Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie's friendship, then I think we're in for a treat. Now, I think that will be mostly it for the Avengers. I think you will have appearances like, you know, Okoye, Shuri, Wong. You know, you'll have all those characters that appear in and out of the Avengers movie, but I don't think they will be Avengers necessarily. I think they'll just be there to appear, kind of thing. And of course, the Guardians of the Galaxy are always in with a shout of being in Avengers 5, but to be honest, I highly doubt it, given that you need the Guardians for a Thanos level type thing, where it's like a cosmic outer world kind of being situation. I feel that the next Avengers movies are going to be a lot more grounded. And I think the perfect villain for Avengers 5 would be Ultron. I think it would be the absolute perfect villain, because it's a villain that we're attached to. It's a villain that the OG6 went up against. It's also a villain that can come back in many forms in AI. So it will provide a lot of... it will provide a test to the new characters, not just physically with their powers, but emotionally as well, because the original Avenger crew faced off against Ultron. So it would be like sort of poetry, so that it rhymes, you know, that they rhyme. And it will keep it relatively grounded. Maybe not go completely Age of Ultron, where, you know, you're lifting half the planet up, and then, you know, you're exploding it with Thor and Iron Man. Maybe not that level, but just, you know, fighting robots, or fighting Chitauri kind of stuff from the first Avengers movie. Stuff like that. Keep it grounded. Keep it grounded. Just so that way, these characters can really be tested, because it'll be more so... Avengers 5 will most likely be Avengers 5 The New Avengers. It will be a story about a new beginning. It will essentially be the bonds between a new group of heroes. And one thing that is interesting is characters like Falcon, Scarlet Witch, and oh, I completely forgot Scarlet Witch. She's always in with a shout of being in the Avengers too. Is that they've actually been around quite a while, but they just haven't had as much spotlight as other people like Cap or Iron Man. So with those characters out the mix, it really puts some spotlight on the lesser characters, and I think we're in for a treat, especially if you're fans of those. Now, obviously, we've got the Fantastic Four, X-Men down the road, and Deadpool is always, you know, looming, so he's always a possibility. But I feel like this movie, when it comes, if it comes, when it will come, is I feel like it's the setup for an Avengers spin-off. I feel like there will be a West Coast Avengers beginning. I think that perhaps maybe War Machine and Hawkeye, because they were founders of the West Coast Avengers in the comics, I feel they will start up a new Avengers line elsewhere, and they will recruit probably Hank Pym, just to have like a scientist in the lab, Moon Knight when he's around, because we know he's coming, Scarlet Witch, Vision if he returns in any shape or form through the series, Wasp, Ant-Man, and I think US Agent, who's also going to be in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think part of his story is redemption once, you know, he gets shafted, so I'll be very interested in that. Quicksilver is also a member of the West Coast Avengers, and he is potentially going to come back in WandaVision. I'm really hoping that's a possibility, because to me, his death in Age of Ultron, it wasn't anything but just gutting, because it was such a waste. It was such a waste. And now with this whole Fox-Disney merger thing, I would be perfectly content with them bringing him back. It's the perfect time to bring him back. It's as good as any. Make it happen. Make it happen. And then there you go. You've got the West Coast Avengers and you've got the Avengers. You've got two separate teams. Then you've got the Guardians of the Galaxy. Then you've got the Eternals. Throw the Fantastic Four in and the X-Men. That's 6 teams there. 6 teams. Now, that's a lot of content to digest, but I also think we're not done there. I think the Young Avengers are also being set up. Now, Spider-Man is relatively young, so he could feature in the Young Avengers as maybe like their mentor sort of thing, and their leader. But I feel like he's at that age where you just kind of want to keep him part of the main Avengers. The Young Avengers, however, I do feel it will be started by Iron Lad. Now, if you don't know who Iron Lad is, he's the kid that was in Iron Man 3, who appeared in Endgame at the funeral, that was just sort of standing to the side and everyone wondered who it was. I think he will have a part to play going forward. As Kevin Feige said, you know, that's what Endgame was about. It was about ending the previous and starting a new beginning. So why else would they put him there if not to say, you know, wink, wink, we've got a little bit of potential here. And then obviously Hawkeye has his own show with his daughter, Hawkeye has his own show and most likely going to be training Kate Bishop. She is also a Young Avenger. Hulkling has been heavily touted throughout the internet, so we'll keep an eye on that one, I guess. But Wiccan and Speed are said to appear in WandaVision as the kids of Wanda and Vision, so that's very likely. So I think Young Avengers is also on the cards, but I don't think it's soon. I think it's, you know, at least a couple more years away, but I think they are definitely planning for it. Now, the one that excites me the most is Marvel's Suicide Squad. That's right, it's the Thunderbolts. Now, we know that Baron Zemo is coming back for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And we do know that there is a cluster of villains that still remain and reside within the MCU. So, if I was a betting man, and given all the characters that we've got incoming as well, I would simply say that Baron Zemo, Abomination, from Hulk, yeah, I think he would be perfect. He's just sitting there, probably chilling in a jail cell somewhere. And Batroc, he was in the opening of the Winter Soldier. He fought against Cap, so not many people will know him unless you really point him out. So I think he could be unique. Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp. Bullseye from the Netflix show. Now, I understand that this is probably the most wild card on the list, but to me, he is perfect as Bullseye. I think every single Netflix casting is perfect. But I understand that, it's uncertain whether they're just going to distance themselves from the Netflix shows or what have you, so we'll have to just see with that one. Justin Hammer. I'm quite disappointed that they didn't do anything with him, really. The end of Iron Man 2, he does say, "I'll be seeing you soon, real soon." So, what better way than give him a shot in Thunderbolts? I mean, if you're going to assemble a team of people, you need the brains behind all the technology and the gadgets. You need the Dr. Octopus of the crew. Now, obviously, he hasn't got the arms, but he's got the brains. Except when he, tries to bust a bunker with the ex-wife. That doesn't really work. Then we've also got Thaddeus Ross, who is, making a bit of resurgence lately, appearing in Civil War, then again in Infinity War, then again at the end of Endgame, and he will be appearing in Black Widow, so I think that Red Hulk will definitely be set up. Venom was a Thunderbolt in the comics. I think I'm pretty sure he was. So with this whole Marvel Sony thing, there's a lot of people that will say, no, it won't happen. But Vulture's in Morbius, so to me, anything's on the table. Don't rule out any possibilities. And I would love Venom to interact with the MCU characters, because to me, yes, the Vulture appeared at the end of the Morbius trailer, but I need more than that. I need him to actually interact with the characters, kind of thing, in an MCU movie. Then you can really say, yeah, that's part of the MCU. Even though I still think they'll keep it a shared universe in a sense, but you've got no choice if you're talking about Venom, who's one of Spider-Man's biggest villains. Now, in the Black Widow film, her sister is mentioned as Yelena, which is also another Black Widow in the comics. So I really think they could go the route of setting her up to be the next Black Widow. It would be a shame if they killed her off in the film. It would be wasted potential. But I'm hoping that we do keep the Black Widow legacy going with Yelena Belova. Crossbones. Now, he died in Civil War, and this is why I was so... I'm one of the people that really disliked his death. Purely because it was such a waste. As much credit as I give the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there is the odd little moment, like with Quicksilver or Crossbones, where it's just genuinely a waste. And I think Crossbones would have been perfect for the Thunderbolts, but I doubt that he will be making any kind of return. The next one is Taskmaster. Now, he is coming into Black Widow, and we have not much knowledge about him or her, because there's been a lot of speculation as to what gender or what person he or she actually is, even though I think it might be just someone from Natasha's past that just knows her and is out for revenge. Simple kind of spy scenario. Taskmaster would be perfect for the Thunderbolts. He's always one of my favorites in the crew. Now you've got Bucky out there, and Winter Soldier was part of the Thunderbolts too. The only problem with this is I see Bucky trying to ditch the Winter Soldier name. And I think that's what his story arc will be throughout Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is him ditching that name and finding a new name, finding a new identity. And in this case, it will be White Wolf or something else down the line, or possibly even Captain America in maybe maybe like 4 or 5 movies, something like that when he's ready. And then last I would think of is probably Deadpool. Now, Deadpool is primed for an entry into the MCU, but as far as I remember, Kevin Feige said that, it's on the cards, but they're just playing their chips right at the minute, and I totally understand that. Thanks to Deadpool 2, with the X-Men, lurking in the background, the Fox X-Men, you have to really have a good reason as to why Deadpool just kind of has that there and no one else does. I mean, not necessarily for Deadpool. Deadpool can play it off by breaking the fourth wall, but what I mean is continuity for other films kind of thing. And if you're going to bring Deadpool over, you may as well bring Colossus. You may as well bring Juggernaut. You may as well bring Domino. You may as well bring Cable. Anything to keep Josh Brolin in the MCU in some way. I think Deadpool definitely needs to be involved in things going forward eventually. And it would be nice to get some clarity on what the fate of the Netflix shows actually is, and where people, where they stand on it and where they're going with it. But I think for now, we're steady. I just really hope that they don't boot Chris Hemsworth out of the Thor role. He does such a good job, and as I've said to people, Thor 1 and 2 are the best Thor films. Thor Ragnarok is his best superhero film, if that makes sense. It's more like what you'd expect a superhero film to really be. Glitz, glamour, flashy lights, that kind of thing, explosions. But if it wasn't for Ragnarok and Infinity War and the reception that Chris Hemsworth got in Infinity War especially, I doubt he would have stayed on. I think Endgame would have been his final movie. But because everything's been kind of going on the up, and, his chemistry with the Guardians of the Galaxy crew, I think Thor has a lot going for him. So even if he's not involved with the Avengers much anymore, keep him around. Keep him around, because he's too good of a character to just push off to the side. And, he's an old character. He's got a lot of age. He could be like the Yoda of Marvel. And that's true. He could be the Yoda. He could be the Yoda of the group. Long lifespan and all. And I'm convinced that him and Loki, you know, the sun will shine on them once again, with Loki surviving into his own series in an alternate timeline. One of the things that Endgame has done for me is it's blown open the universe. So if they wanted a reason to bring back Captain America, Steve Rogers, they could. If they wanted to bring back Tony Stark, they could. If they wanted to bring back Natasha Romanoff, they could. If they wanted to bring back Phil Coulson, because I'm not sure if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is still canon to the movies anymore. If they wanted to do that, they could. If they wanted to bring Quicksilver back, they could. They have that power now. The only characters that they have any problems with are the Sony ones. Now, there's a lot of misconception here. Marvel still own all the characters. They own Spider-Man and Morbius to Venom and Iron Man. Marvel still own every single one of them. But this is about movie rights, and in the movie rights, Sony dictate where most of Spider-Man's characters go, which is why they probably jumped on Venom as soon as they could, because they saw Spider-Man's rise in popularity, and they knew that Venom would be one of the most popular villains to come along, especially if Marvel got their hands on him first before them. But anyway, guys and girls, I'm rambling. You comment down below, what team would you like to see in Avengers 5? And do you think that the roster is too much now to kind of have one team and split the teams up and maybe, you know, share across different countries around the globe? And are you worried that fatigue might set in? I'm already feeling it a little bit. With all the movies and TV shows that we're getting, I'm already feeling it. It's kind of hard to explain to a newcomer. But I am excited, I am hopeful, and, you know, all this is to come, and we haven't even got any mention of the Fantastic Four or X-Men yet, so we've got lots to look forward to. But I will go on record to say this: if we reach another Endgame level event with the X-Men and Fantastic Four, you need to bring Steve Rogers, Iron Man and Widow back. You need to bring them three back, just to join them in the final fight, you know what I mean? It's sort of like, they're not going to be leading the line. They're just going to join the fight. Just so that way we can have all the heroes. Just imagine it. All the heroes on screen together. You've got like 3 generations of the Avengers. You've got the X-Men, Fantastic Four, Guardians of the Galaxy, Eternals. You know, all these teams. You know, hell, even throw the Thunderbolts in there. And what better villain to probably put it against than Doctor Doom? I think Doctor Doom would be the absolute perfect villain to probably end all Avengers things, because in about 20 years they're going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel to try and find, and you know, I'm sorry if you like those characters, but at the really bottom of the comics there is not much down there. You know, there's a lot, but, and we've still got loads to go, but I really don't think, you know, past maybe phase 10, for example, people are really going to care too much. I think fatigue will definitely set in, and people will want a break, because right now we ain't getting a break. The ride is still going, and I'm still riding it. I'm still a fan, but I'm cautiously being a fan right now. Just, you know, keeping my expectations in check and just seeing where we go with it. But anyway, guys and girls, leave your comments down below. Who would you like to see as the team in Avengers 5, and what do you think they're going to do going forward for teams with the roster? See you in another video, folks.